What is up, Sports Geeks? It's your host, Josh. You're back with another episode after a 1 week break. So it's been 2 weeks since our last episode, but I'm joined by Alec yet again. Alec, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a minute since chatting with you. So excited to chat. And we're chatting fantasy football here today. This is the first. I think we did a fantasy football mock draft earlier in the summer, but this is kind of the first fantasy football specific episode we've done. You've got some running backs that you feel are undervalued. I've got some running backs that I feel are undervalued. We're just going to hop right into this. Hit me with your first running back that's undervalued.
Okay, so I'm going to start off. I will save the guy that I think we have in common. I'm going to go Zamir White first.
Okay.
Zamir White, if you kind of look at Zamir White's last, I don't know. I just want to pull up. I actually did some research here. So week 15 through 18 last year, he had 17 carries, 22, 20, and 25. He averaged almost 4.75 yards per carry, almost 5 yards a carry. Very efficient in an offense that was pretty putrid. Other than that, Aiden O'Connell didn't play very well. Nobody would say Aiden O'Connell is even an average starter. So the fact that Zamir White could kind of do that damage on that amount of touches, they brought in Alexander Madison. He doesn't have a lot of competition for bulk, carries. So I really like Zamir White's value. His ADP right now in Sleeper in just PPR formats is around 84. So I mean that's around 7-8. I think that's a good value, especially if you're going 0 RB early.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's being drafted as the what here? Let's as the RB 21. So you're looking at an RB3. That's the clear RB1. He's got workhorse upsides. I think I understand the only real thing you can knock on Zamir White is that he hasn't really shown that he can do it for longer than a 3-game stretch where you're playing like in week 18, he plays the Ravens, who pretty much put like you and I out there on defense. Which I completely understand the argument, right? But what you can't argue is that the volume is there, and you're getting an RB3 that has RB1 volume to him.
Yeah.
On Alexander Madison he showed last year he can't be a starting running back. He is good for a 1 week frame when Zamir White gets injured and you're playing the 2021 Detroit Lions when they can't stop the run to save their lives. Like that's what he's good for. So I'm not worried about Alexander Madison taking volume away from Zamir White. The only thing I think I question is how high is his receiving upside, right? Especially if you're in a standard format, I think Zamir White's solid. But if you're in PPR, half PPR, I think Zamir White, it's just going to be a question mark. How much of that receiving work does he get? Last year, obviously, did not get much. Never got a ton at Georgia. In Georgia, they didn't have to throw the ball on third down when he was there. But he didn't get much at Georgia. He's really never had much in his career. I think that's the only question mark I would have for Zamir White. But I like the volume there. You're drafting a late RB2, early RB3 with RB1 volume. So I like that there. I'm going to go ahead and throw you my first one here, and it's James Cook. And the reason behind this primarily is, so last year he finishes as the RB12 on the year. And he's currently being drafted as the – give me a second. I just had it pulled up and lost it. But he's currently being drafted as the RB14. So he went down 2 spots from last year to this year. And from last year, the Bills have an offensive coordinator change, right? You get Joe Brady as an interim offensive coordinator, hire him on full-time as your full-time offensive coordinator. And he was great last year. 9 games they played with him, they averaged 27 points per game. Yep. And then you look at this offense too, and you take away Stephon Diggs, you take away Gabe Davis, you take away the pass catchers in this offense, they are going to be a run-first offense, whether you like it or not. Like you don't have the receiving weapons, and I don't care how good Josh Allen is, you don't have the receiving weapons to be a pass-first offense. James Cook is an extremely talented running back. His first year was a little bit up and down due to some fumbling issues. I mean, his first carry ever on Thursday Night Football against the Rams. You remember that? First carry ever, he fumbles. Yeah. So rookie year was a little bit up and down, shaky. Last year was a great bounce back year. We saw what he's truly capable of. And Joe Brady clearly likes to utilize him a ton.
Yep.
We saw it towards the end of last year. I think James Cook is set for a top 10 RB finish with, clear RB5 upside to me.
Yeah.
There's nobody competing for carries.
Yeah. And so, last year and him being on the Bills is tough because Josh Allen had 15 rushing touchdowns last year, I believe. So all those goal line touches, and really they didn't even use him when they didn't use Josh Allen because Latavius Murray would come in.
Right.
So I was listening to a show earlier. His over under for rushing touchdowns is 3.5. He only had 2 rushing touchdowns last year, which is pretty crazy because he had 1,100 yards.
Yeah.
But I think, you get a couple more touchdowns out of there. He only had 6 touchdowns last year. If James Cook gets into that 7, 8, 9 touchdowns, he might be a top 7 running back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, but what I was just saying too about who's competing for carries, Ray Davis is their backup and Ty Johnson is their third string. He is like what we said about James Conner last year of like this guy will never be removed from the field is exactly what we would say about James Cook this year. Like you cannot justify him ever leaving the field unless you're in 5 out and not with a running back. Like he should always be on the field.
But even then, even if they go 5 out, you could argue that I would rather have him in the slot than Andy Isabella or KJ Hamler or Marquise Valdez-Scantling. You know what I mean? So it's just tough. I know they have the 2 tight ends. They could put both of them out there, but I love James Cook. So kind of my next guy, I have Nick Chubb here. I don't know if you saw him squat. This is kind of a cheat code because his ADP is going to skyrocket once people realize he's going to play earlier than they think. Him squatting the 585 or whatever it was, I forget what it was. That's crazy. His knee was destroyed last November.
It was a right angle.
Yeah. Really. It's crazy. I want to see if they have it on I don't know if they have it, but 500 pounds. So, I love Nick Chubb. As a Bengals fan, I'm saying that. I love Nick Chubb. I don't think you can hate Nick Chubb. He kind of just goes about his business the right way. It's not really surprising. He's a freak athlete that he recovered so fast. But Nick Chubb, if healthy, looking at these finishes, after his rookie year, 7th, or I'll go full PPR, 8th, 11th, 13th, 6th. He's a locked in RB1 if he plays 17 games.
Yeah, I think that's funny that you said Nick Chubb, and because one of mine I have is Jerome Ford. And because I think that it's such a question mark with how well is he going to recover. And I don't even think it's like hypocritical to say both of them, because what you're getting is either one, whichever one you like, you are getting either of them at an RB3 to RB4, value right now. And if either of them wins the job, or if you want to take both of them,
that's what
whichever one wins the job, you have an RB1. Or whichever, if Chubb's healthy, you have an RB1. With absurd upside. Jerome Ford last year finishes the RB14 if you take away week 1, because Chubb played in week 1. So, he is like Jerome Ford has as much upside as. Nearly as much upside, I should say, as Chubb does. Maybe even more because it's just questionable on how much Chubb's going to come back. Or maybe not more. His floor is, I think, maybe a little bit higher. But either way, you're running behind a top 3 probably offensive line in the league. And you're in a team with a great defense who is probably going to be leading some games and have some positive game scripts.
Yep. Yeah, and I also think Kevin Stefanski wants to run the ball.
Yes,
so whoever that, and even if both are healthy, you're still looking at probably like a 60-40 Chubb, 60, eventually getting to the 60. It's probably 50-50 right off the bat. Maybe Ford a little more, just working Chubb back in. But I just think that Nick Chubb in the 8th round, and again, like Jerome Ford in the 9th, 10th round, they're just great values. Regardless of like you said, you could go both.
Yeah, absolutely, you could. like then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's good. There's going to be some weeks. Remember when like Chubb and Kareem Hunt were both startable. So
right. Well, and
we've
yeah,
seen
I mean a little bit off topic here, but I think that like I'm actually in a dynasty right now. The draft has been going on for like 3 or 4 days right now. It's like the 4 to 8 hour
yeah.
times per pick, but I have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in that, and that's like the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara in
Yep.
New Orleans sort of thing to me. Of this team is going to be so good on the ground, and you look at Cleveland, they're way worse than Detroit because Detroit. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about my lines the entire time, but Amon Ra is and would be the best receiver on the Browns roster, and Goff has clearly better than Deshaun Watson right now. So the Browns need to be a run first offense.
Yep.
The Lions can kind of they choose to be. The Browns need to be. So you very well could have Chubb and Ford be startable running backs
Yep.
with both of them healthy. So I love the Chubb pick, and for all the same reasons that you like the Chubb pick, I like Jerome Ford as well.
Yep. And one more thing about them, like especially about Chubb, is it really depends on how your draft goes. Say you draft early, you really like your team, right? You got say you pick, you get Brees or Bijan or Gibbs or McCaffrey. You get an RB1 that's locked and loaded. They'll probably never come out of your lineup. If you can get Chubb, say he falls, late 8th, 9th round, he could be a league winner, week 12 on. Like when he's fully healthy, kind of like Brees Hall was last year. Brees Hall didn't fall to the 8th round, obviously.
Right.
But like Brees Hall going in the 4th round last year, like won me like probably 3 or 4 leagues alone, just because Brees Hall was unbelievable down the stretch because he got healthy.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it all depends on how your draft goes, right? If you are sitting in a draft and you're like, I don't feel confident about my team to win in weeks 1 through 7, you need to draft somebody that's going to help you win in weeks 1 through 7.
Totally agree.
If you're in this position that you were talking about, I think that you can also go with a guy that I think we're probably both going to say the same name here in Jonathan Brooks, because he's another guy that's recovering from a gruesome knee injury, right? Brooks obviously is like 8 years younger and never had a huge volume at Texas until this past year, had good volume. He's uber talented. Playing behind Bijan Robinson, obviously you're not going to have a huge role in there. But I just think that Jonathan Brooks is walking into a team who just has a depth chart at running back that's just so thin, and the team is just bad. So you're looking at somebody that's going to have clear volume, and I think from the get-go he has the pass catching downs, in my opinion. So you look at your team. I mean, you're competing against Raheem Blackshear and Mike Boone, and then you have Chuba Hubbard. So Chuba Hubbard,
it's his backfield.
It is his backfield. I mean, Hubbard is okay, but he proved last year he shouldn't be the starter to me. I mean, so you have Brooks who's going to come in weeks 1 through 6. I mean, weeks 1 through 8-ish. I would guess he finishes in the RB 20 to 30 range. That's just my guess. Assuming for every week that he plays, I would guess RB 20 to 30. He's going to have a week or two that he goes off. And then I think from weeks 8 until the end of the season is when he's your league winner. I think Jonathan Brooks is a guy that if you're in a league where, you should be targeting him as a trade guy in weeks like 3 through 5 if you don't have him, because Jonathan Brooks is going to be the league winner. I traded for Brees Hall last year in week like 6, and he won me that league. It's Jonathan Brooks to me is that of this year.
Yeah, and I think like what I have done in a couple of my a lot of mock drafts that I've done and kind of the build I like doing. So it really depends, but if you get like an early to mid first, I try everything I can to get McCaffrey because McCaffrey to me I know the injury risk is there, but McCaffrey unlocks so much potential. There's so many wideouts. Like there are almost too many wideouts for my head to even fathom this year in fantasy.
Yeah.
So if you can get, McCaffrey, Bijan, or Brees or Gibbs, you can literally just hammer wide out, and then you could. And what I have done is then you take Chubb and Brooks back to back, and then all one of them has to do is hit.
Yep.
And one of them's going to hit. I think both will hit, but one of them has to hit, and then you have one of those get top guys and then another league winner. So it's basically like 2 RB 8+. I mean, it's the recipe seems like it's going to work. I don't know. Every year is so different. I know we talked about this last year, how we were kind of, or at least I was pro no RB last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough because there's so many wideouts now that it's almost like you just have to get lucky with the wideouts that you choose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, wideout is there's the volume of them. Like last year, I think there was like a clear tier 1, and that was that was Jefferson and Chase, right? And probably Tyreek Hill in there. And then you had a clear group of 2, that in Cooper Kupp was in there last year, going into last year, like Amon-Ra's in there, AJ Brown's in there, CeeDee Lamb was in there. And after the clear wide receiver 2, you had that little gray area of like a Jalen Waddle, a Devontae Smith, a Chris Olave, and then it was like a drop off.
Oh yeah.
And this year, I feel like there's the wide receivers like 1 through 30. Let me read off the wide receiver 30 here. The wide receiver 30 is T. Higgins.
That's pretty crazy.
In ADP.
Wait, name off the 30th running back.
The 30th running back is Brian Robinson Jr.
That's crazy.
So I mean, I think that's exactly to your point of if you are a 0 RB guy, you might need to think about changing your ways this year because early it's pretty valuable to go our running back because the wide receivers you're getting later are going to be good. The running backs you're going to get later are not going to be good.
Yeah, and I think the variance is so much different because remember when it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, the top QBs were outscoring some of the other QBs by a ton of points. Mm-hmm. And now the variance is a little less. Same with like tight ends. Like we saw last year with Laporta. Like there are really good tight ends now, young tight ends in the NFL. So it's not just Travis Kelce outscoring every other tight end by 85 PPR points. Like it's not like that anymore. But it's kind of like that with running back where it's like the difference between, I'm just looking right now, like the difference between even Jonathan Taylor at RB5 and Brian Robinson at RB30 is massive. But the difference between AJ Brown and I'm looking down here, like a guy like Keenan Allen. Like Keenan Allen could pop off again like this year. Like it just, I don't see that big of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 18 was 100 points. And that just kind of seems crazy to me. 15 players within 100 points of the top 3. And so, I mean, you had a wide receiver 2 that was within striking distance of being not striking distance, but kind of striking distance, right? Of being a top 5 receiver, we'll say. So yeah, I know to your point, I completely agree. And in these 5 running backs, I truly believe will be, of these 5, 3 or 4 of them are going to be league winners. And I feel confident in that. Any closing comments here as we begin to wrap this up, though?
No, I don't have anything else. I know that this year to be good at fantasy, you're going to have to hit some dart throws kind of later on running backs.
Right.
And, it's going to be interesting to see who actually hits and who doesn't. But I just had one quick guy I just wanted to throw out real quick. I just wanted to get your opinion on Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, Tyjae Spears was on my short list of guys because Pollard basically proved to me last year that he is incapable of being a bell cow starting running back. And people paid the price for drafting him last year, right? I did in the league. I drafted him in the 2nd round last year thinking this is great value, and it wasn't. So Pollard proved that. Tyjae Spears last year was an off-brand Devon Achane, right?
Yep.
And he's stupid explosive. He's really good in the pass game. And to me, I think he's probably already won 60% of the pass catching downs in that offense before the season even started. So I think Pollard, who last year was very inefficient behind the Tennessee offensive line, probably also going to be inefficient. I could see Tyjae Spears by week 8. Again, a guy that you should be trading for between weeks 3 and 5 if you can't draft him, because maybe the start to the year Pollard is going to get a lot of volume and it's going to start to shift towards Spears. I think Spears could be a league winner as well.
I just asked because I know that Pollard is going about 30 picks ahead of Spears, so
yeah.
I want to get your opinion on that, but
yeah, I would hold off on Pollard and take a wide receiver then, and with my next pick, take Spears. That's just the way I would run that.
Yep.
But either way, this has been the first fantasy football position specific podcast. Next week will be receivers. We'll be coming out with them, and then maybe we'll started getting into some mock drafts or something. I mean, drafting season is right around the corner. This is, I'm in one. This is actually a startup dynasty draft, so this is the fun one, right? Where it's super meaningful, but drafts are right around the corner. This is starting to get to the fun phase. We have, I think, 6 more Sundays until football.
Yep.
Maybe 5 now after yesterday. I don't know.
Are we including preseason? I think it's 6.
6.
I think it's
so
6.
6 more Sundays until football. Which, one last comment here, I saw a thing. I think Burrow might have even recommended this. 18-week season or an 18-game season, 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
And in the middle, pretty much everybody has a bye week in the middle. You have the Pro Bowl games there, similar to like the NBA and MLB All-Star break. And then you have Super Bowl Sunday is the day before President's Day, which means everybody's off work the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday, which is just the most perfect idea I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
That's really all I wanted to say. I just hope that the NFL that's watching this video really, really.
Yeah. Do you think Roger Goodell's watching right now?
Yeah. Well, boo.
Yeah.
But no, that's all we got for today. But we'll be back next week. We'll be back the week after that. Missed last week, but we will not be missing more weeks in the future here. So this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for tuning in, guys.